Hello! Welcome to Levels Plus Weekly, episode 42. We are out of the Super Smash November weeds and now get to explore the vast valleys of whatever I feel like talking about for a couple weeks until we jump into awards content. And I do have to say that in the midst of doing all of that Smash content in November, I totally blitzed the thought that I've been doing this for a year. So, happy anniversary Levels Plus Weekly, and part of the episode today we'll be talking about the experience of doing this show. I also want to return to a topic from that very first episode, which will be a house tour, because my house has changed around quite a bit in the last year. Second half, we will discuss Nintendo Switch Online. And now it continues to baffle everyone that doesn't work at Nintendo. So that'll be a delightful topic, I'm sure. But we'll go ahead and start with the Levels Plus Weekly piece of that content I've got for you today. Thanks to the magic of editing, I pulled up what Levels Plus Weekly episode 1 looked like. So November 15th is when I decided to put up the first episode of this show. I didn't really know exactly what it was going to be or become. I just wanted to do something fun and challenge myself in a new way during the pandemic of doing content for Levels Plus. What I discovered is that I was having a hard time writing at the depth that I wanted to on the site, and I don't know exactly what that transcribes in any way. It's just, I think I was just feeling burned out about being on a computer screen and writing more stuff after work. So Levels Plus Weekly was a way for me to continue doing content for the blog at a reasonable pace and challenge myself to do something new, which was learning how to do this video thing. So getting a YouTube channel set up and kind of developing what the show's format and location and all that was going to be like, and what the vibe of the whole thing. It's been an interesting process, as well as like how I want to edit this show, how complicated do I want to make it, because I don't get paid for doing this. This is purely a hobby. But after some experimentation with using my phone versus a webcam, using my laptop to edit versus my work PC, I've learned a lot about the process, and I've learned a lot of things of what I can and can't do under the current situation. So in 2022, I'd like to get a desktop of my own, get a better webcam than what I currently have, get an actual microphone, so I sound better, and up the production quality a bit if I can, without adding too much more work. Because like I said, this is something I do for fun and to kind of expand my skills in doing editing and being in front of camera and all that. But it's not necessarily my job. And I don't think I want it to be my job. I want it to be just, I sit down here and talk to you about what's on my mind, and I've been enjoying doing that. And one thing that I have also learned is that it's really easy to do lists. My goodness, doing lists is so simple, and I really felt for a bit there over the summer that it got very listy on Levels Plus Weekly, and that's kind of why like in October I did some horror stuff, and I did Smash November as a much more loose thing, because I just was like, I don't want to do like top 10 Wii games and top 10 GameCube games, because those systems just had anniversaries. I feel like that's something I should do less often, and just think about like what topic came up this week that I want to talk about. So growing pains. I mean, this show's a year old at this point, in a month almost, and I do enjoy the pickup part quite a bit. I don't have anything this week, but I will for you next week, which is going to be super fun. Just like talking about things that I'm passionate about. Like I got the opportunity to talk about The Last Story and Skies of Arcadia, Elevator Action Returns, like these games that mean so much to me on a level that like just talking about them in any other context is difficult. Like I could do like Wii games that should be ported to the Switch, but everybody does that, especially Nintendo-based sites. And I definitely have a Nintendo slant. That's because the Switch is my primary gaming system. But I feel like Levels Plus Weekly has come into its own. I rewatched episode 1 here, and it's quite a bit rougher than I think anything I've done in the last couple months. So I'm very proud of what this show has become. I want to thank you for hanging out with me. This show doesn't get a ton of views. Typically I get a couple people watching, and I know that I have 1 or 2 people that always watch, or at least make the effort to always watch, and I greatly appreciate you guys and gals and those who might be non-binary for joining me on my little adventure here on Levels Plus Weekly. It means a lot. So here's to year 2, seeing where that goes. It's going to be, like I said, I have plans to upgrade equipment and to make this look and sound nicer than it currently does. So I hope you will keep hanging out with me as we move into 2022. So we're going to do a room tour, but that means that this webcam is not equipped to be able to go around the entire house. So what's going to happen is I'm going to use my phone to do the footage, and then I'm going to dub over it, because I've learned how to do that, and talk about things as I go that way. So let's go ahead and transition the film to the next part of the show, which is the room tour. All right, here we are at hutch number 1, and as you can see, I am got all my holiday decorations out and about, but my motif this year was to kind of pop my favorite games along with all of the usual stuff. So that's why you see just the game cartridges and cases all around. I enjoy all of my stuff, I do have to say, and this was pretty fun to put together, and still don't really know what to do with that Gris vinyl, do I have to say. There's Mr. Dickens. I may have mentioned this last year, but I won that in a contest in one of my classes at university, and I bring him out for the holidays. And here's the top of both of the hutches. That's my tree. All kinds of other stuff. There's a she slime hanging out in that cup. There is quite a bit of new stuff kind of hanging out. I've acquired quite a few amiibo from Gamers in Control when I went over there in August, plus a few other ones that have come out throughout the year. I'm glad I still have so much of my N64 stuff boxed. I even pulled the Rob box out for this year. Probably the biggest addition to all this stuff appears the Streets of Rage 4 box, because that thing is just enormous. And that's why the Axel and Blaze statue is just huge. I do love my my Inkling band there. Those are the Blaster Master pewter models that I got with the Blaster Master Zero set. You can see that brand new Darius box hanging out back there, as well as my Chris Tales plush and a couple more of the new amiibo. Then down on this shelf, there's the Astro City Mini and my Scarlet Witch figure that I have been trying to acquire for years. I finally got it. Makes me so happy. There's my Samus Dread amiibo. That spear came with the pyramid head. I'll show you in a little bit. I do have the first set of the 35th anniversary pins from Mario. There's Terry. I think he's new. I don't quite remember when I got all of the Pass 1 DLC amiibo. And then there's my NES and Rob just chilling. A little bit of view of the back. There's Sifa and I forget her name from Alien vs. Predator. Lynn Kurosawa. There we go. You can even see my Super Mario Bros. 3 Famicom cart hanging out in there. Inside the hutch, I like to have these boxes decorated. They're from the Peter Popper Press, which was a company that worked with the George Macy Company, the fancy books I collect. And the other part of my motif this year is I isolated all the games I only have one or like a variant of in here, and I put all of the games I have more than one game in the series out that weren't involved with the display. So these are all games I only have one of or I have variants of. A little bit closer look at the Switch games there, because most of those are relatively new ones. And Harvest Moon 64 is pretty new too. I don't remember if I had that last year. And then this is where the Femtendo place is in this hutch. It's a little out of sorts because a lot of the carts are scattered about at the moment. There's the disc system games that I don't have in a series, and then all of those, and it's a mess in here, I'm sorry. I probably should have cleaned it up first, but I didn't think of it, and I was committed to doing the shoot. They're so colorful though. I love having all of these. And then here's some of the stuff in the back. Some NES games, the Wave Jack game I have, and then the two Natsume boxed games are from Limited Run. And I showed those off on the show earlier. But this is where all my Nintendo powers are hanging out. There's Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest, which was the inspiration for my Femtendo 83 through 86 cover. And that's the Final Fantasy guide they did. And here's a bunch of controllers for the various mini consoles that I have. And then at the bottom is all the NES and Super Nintendo stuff. Books. I love books. That should be obvious. These are the more academic books that I have. A bunch of Lego figures in a jar for some reason. And then those are my two gaming books. I should be getting my copy of a regular copy of Femtendo this week. So that'll be exciting. And here's a bunch of the NES stuff that I've used for Femtendo and Culture Clash articles, as well as just strategy guides, localization books, stuff like that. And then a little bit further on we get into some art books, comics, encyclopedias, choose your own adventure. There's a Mario Kids book buried in there, and then here's a close-up of some of these smaller art books. The Darius Gray hardcover is new. And then here's all the art books, and the Metroid one's the big new one that I got this year. Otherwise, all of this should look pretty familiar if you watch last year's video. But I would like to get some more art books at some point. Down the road. And then here's my PlayStation and GameCube controllers, all my Dreamcast controllers, my N64 controllers, my Wii and Wii controllers, and the second model NES JD sent me, and a bunch of other old consoles. And then down here's my board games, CDs, DVDs, and PlayStation 3, because that awkward thing won't fit anywhere else. Those are my Hanafuda cards that I got from Club Nintendo. Remember that? And these are my Platinum playing cards from the same thing. And And last but not least are these playing cards of Legend from Fangamer. Alright, another shelf. Here are some of my Ninjaroids and Figma figures. Amaterasu is new, as is Pyramid Head. He's the newest toy out of them all, and I love him. He's so cool looking. Oh my god. And then Meryl and Elena are not from those lines. Elena's from Play Arts from Square Enix, and I don't remember what exact thing Meryl came from, but she works well with the rest of these. Idleguard is still one of my favorite figures. Amy is great, but I'm really loving that Pyramid Head. He's just so cool. I'm getting a Bubblehead Nurse soon, in January. And then as I was saying earlier, I've franchised out games into the rest of the shelves here. So these are all the Dragon Quest / Warrior games I have, followed by Castlevania, and in terms of how many I have. And then, shockingly, I have more Final Fantasy than I would think I would, considering how little I care. And then my 4 Suikoden games for the PS2. Someday I'll have the PS1 ones, I hope, maybe. Keep looking for the Japanese ones, but haven't seen them yet. And then that's Mario and Darius and Shadow Hearts and the Ogre series on the far right. And Silent Hill 1 through 3, Blaster Master, and Blaster Master 0, 1, and 2. Well, I should say Metafight to be correct. Capcom Classics, Metroid, Fire Emblem, Zelda, Mega Man, Sonic, Street Fighter, and the Namco Museums. And then down at the bottom, I've got my R-Types, my Valkyria Chronicles, my Mana, my Ace Attorney, my Valkyrie Profile, my Sam Show, my Ease. I believe that's Taito Legends in the black case that you can't see anything. And then I'm gonna get a little bit confused. I see the 1080 games, Guardian Legend, Magic of Scheherazade, the Terranigma and Soul Blader, my Twinbees, my Ninja Jajamarus, my YY Worlds. And here's all of my pins and miscellaneous small things, as well as my favorite art pieces outside of my Gris stuff, my Beyond Good and Evil paper crafts that one of my best friends made me. I love them. I got Crystal pins and another Darius pin down here, I think, since last year. And then let's do a quick tour of my walls. Not too much has changed here. I did put up more of the Legend of Zelda art I got from Carrie Fry for Fangamer, so those are now all up there since the last time I did this, I believe. There's that lovely piece of Gris watercolor that I got from Conrad Rosé and Special Reserve Games. Still the best special edition I've ordered. But I don't think there's too much else radically different here. Just things moved around a bit when I did some redecorating sometime over the summer. Over here, the Metroid Zero Mission piece moved over here, as did the River City Girls. It's now on the wall, but there's some new posters. I got a Blaster Master Zero and Streets of Rage 4 poster since last time. And just a real quick pan of my space. Alright, I changed the art in this hallway since last time to be all art I did in 2021, so that's very exciting. So that's Mira up there, Celeste on the left, then Julia, then She, then April, then Akari, and then Zeke. Then here's my fancy books. I love these things. I've gotten a few since last year, but not a ton. So we'll keep this a little bit more truncated than last year. I won't show off all of the shelves, just more of the ones that I've got new stuff. So the big thing I did in 2021 was to get most of the first series. So that Undine is new, that Evergreen's Tales with Beauty and the Beast is new, and I think that's it on that shelf. And then most of these are new. The Baron Munchausen, Arthur Gordon Pym, Rip Van Winkle, Robinson Crusoe, those are all new. And then I also got one at the far end here, which is the lyrics of Francois Villon. But that's it in terms of new acquisitions, so I think we'll just cut it here. Right, so my yoga space is now a yoga and a library space. I moved the library in here. And here, my lovely ocean paintings from my dear friend's sister are still up, and then I have some new paintings that were given to me by my best friend before she moved, so I appreciate those. Not too much has changed in the heritage shelf, or in here in general. On this shelf though, there's a bunch of my books. That's where I decided to plop all of my non-game ones. I do need to get developed a little bit later this month. And not too much has changed down here other than I got a couple books from my best friend before she moved. She thought I would like to read them, so I appreciate her so much. And then up here, not too much has changed. Not much at all. Do need to get around to reading more of these things that I have on these shelves. There's a couple new books in here, again, from my friend who moved. And I just haven't been out to buy used books much. I haven't been out to Goodwill or any of the thrift stores around town lately. I did go to Goodwill not too long ago, but didn't see anything that I wanted. Alright, so here's the revamped yoga space. It's a little dark, but I think we can see well enough. A lot of new things from my best friend who moved. Joined this space over the year. I got a new pillow to sit on. That delightful shelf unit is from my friend. I love it so much. It's such a great place to store all my oils and various rocks and such. Still have my paper lantern and my globe and my Amma art. Although I didn't really show the Amma art this year. Sorry, I love it still. New paintings. These were by my best friend who moved. She gave them to me and I really appreciate them. And then my favorite piece of art I've ever done. Still. I love that piece so much. And then there's a painting I did earlier this year. More books and my mantras and some cool stuff. Love it. Love this space. All right. That concludes the house tour. I did cut a room out because unlike last year where I had a library in the back room, now there is nothing in the back room beyond cat stuff. And I just didn't really think it was necessary to include it. So I hope you enjoyed checking out what has changed over the last year. Speaking of the cats, let's do a little intermission. Alright, welcome back. It's been a while since you've seen the cats. So we're going to talk about Nintendo Switch Online a little bit more, just trying to understand what's going on with this service. So I want to thank Nintendo Life before we get too deep into this for being my backdrop, but as well as a really good video that one of their video producers, Xeon, did today. Here's the link for that. That talks about it in a more, I guess, business-oriented angle. I just want to talk about it from just like an understanding level. The Switch online apps are suffering horribly from drip feeding. And this is a continuation of what the Wii and the Wii U ended up doing with their virtual consoles. I just, it's frustrating to see like weeks go on with nothing coming to these services. And we keep hearing that Nintendo's improving them. Nintendo's working on improving them. Nintendo is working on making them more desirable. But adding content that is compromised in some way for an extra amount of money is not improving them. It's making it a deluxe item without the proper terminology to make it deluxe, if that makes any sense. Paper Mario is a perfectly fine game. I'm not here to harp on that at all. I just don't understand what Nintendo's doing. I really wish I understood what they were doing with this drip feed approach, because it's working against them in so many ways. Along with that, it's like there's still stuff that Nintendo themselves could release for the NES and Super Nintendo apps that they haven't yet. And I understand that there's probably some licensing involved with Super Mario RPG. They got to cooperate with Square Enix to do that. I'm sure that there's some issues with cooperating with Earthbound to get a toy on board, to get all of that in place. That's typically why it's been a premium item on past services, is because I think it requires some doing to make Earthbound be a thing. And plus they gotta do some slight editing here and there because it skirted pretty close to copyright infringement in its original release. As well as the potential epilepsy stuff. So I understand why they're not there, but at the same time, it would really be a sign of goodwill that you are working to improve the service if we can get those two fan favorites on the Super Nintendo app, as well as like stuff on the NES. I could think of like we could get Earthbound Zero on there. We can get Fire Emblem, Shadow Dragon, and the Blade of Light finally on there, localized. We can get the Mysterious Murasame Castle, which is like the disc system oddity that wasn't localized back then, but it's come out here on the 3DS. We can get stuff that hasn't made it over yet, like Zoda's Revenge, Star Tropics 2. Maybe we could continue that relationship with Microsoft and get like RC Pro-Am and Battletoads and Slalom and Snake Rattle and Roll onto the NES app. Get those rare games out there that they have the rights to. I just feel like there's so much more that could be done, especially on like a third-party front. When we look at the NES app, Capcom has one game, and it's Ghosts and Goblins. There are so many more, even outside the banner of the 6 Mega Man games, that could join the service. We got Bionic Commando. Spectacular game, one of the best games Capcom's ever made. We got Mighty Final Fight. We've got Strider. We've got Street Fighter 2010. We've got Destiny of an Emperor. We got Codename Viper. We've got Legendary Wings, Sector Z, Trojan, 1942 and 43, even though 42 is not the one you'd want to port. Commando, Gunsmoke. And that's 13 that I have just listed. There's more, I just can't think of them immediately, that are not Disney related, or other licenses, that could be on this service, but they're not, for whatever reason. Konami is in a similar boat. I think in America we have Twinbee and Star Soldier, which Star Soldier was a Hudson Techbo thing, if I recall. And that's it. The Japanese side also has Yair Kung Fu and Smash Ping Pong. But, like, discounting Castlevania and Contra, we have Metal Gear and Snake's Revenge. We have Jackal, Blades of Steel, Double Dribble, Adventures of Bayou Billy. We have... I'm trying to remember. There's so much, especially in Japan, that Konami's done. And then, like, just to throw it out there because I'm blanking, Hudson stuff. So Bomberman, Bomberman 2, Adventure Island 1, 2, and 3. And if we wanted to get fancy, we could do the 4th game too. Millen's Secret Castle, Princess Tomato and the Salad Kingdom, so on and so forth. There's so much that could be done with just those two companies that hasn't happened. I will say that Capcom has been more forthcoming on the Super Nintendo, because we got both Breath of Fires, we got Super Ghouls and Ghosts, we've got Demon's Crest. But with Konami, we have Poppin' Twinbee, which is an import game. It's like we're not even like covering like Axlay or Sunset Riders or anything that they actually published in America is on that service. And again, all of Hudson's stuff. So it's really just kind of fallen on the backs of B tier and C tier publishers. And like by B tier, I mean like Natsume and Culture Brain Excel and SNK, and I don't want to really call Sega a B tier because I would say they're probably A tier, but at the moment, in terms of what they've offered, we have a Sammy game on the NES. So like we have like a lot of these curious one-shots of great cult classic games. Like we have Sunsauce Blaster Master, we have Crystallis from SNK, we've got Vice Project Doom from Sammy. These are all great games to have on there, and I've enjoyed getting a chance to play a good chunk of them. But like the weight has really fallen on the backs of like Pico Interactive, Throwback Entertainment, even Interplay Entertainment, because what we have at the moment is Prehistoric Man, which is so random. Which has brought some interesting games to the service, mind. I mean, I'm not going to complain that Nightshade for the NES is there, or like Psycho Dream, which was a Nihon Telenet game that Idea now owns. I think these are all great, and seeing some of them show up is just wild. But a lot of these games are obscure at best, and like their qualities are not as finely tuned as your Super Metroids and your Super Mario Worlds and your Legend of Zeldas, or even like your Demon's Crests or your Poppin' Twinbees. Like there's a difference. These companies were swinging and they didn't have the technical chops to quite land what they were going for, but the effort was still made, and it's still interesting and compelling to play some of these games, and some of them are really good. Like Spanky's Quest, really funny name, but it's actually a very charming 2D platformer with a puzzle element that you have to juggle a bubble in the air and then pop it to get different attacks to come out, and you have to kind of figure out the best way of interacting in these rooms. It's actually a very compelling game, but it's not something that's going to make you go, gee, I want to buy the Nintendo Switch app to play that. And then with the N64, like, we're going to run into problems really fast if we're just relying on Nintendo. There's a lot of third-party support for the N64, but a lot of it is not from major companies. Capcom only had 3 total games on the N64. Konami had several, but a lot of them are not considered like their best quality work. It's experimental. It's interesting. Hybrid Heaven is a very interesting game. I didn't really connect with it when I played it, but it's very interesting. Square Enix only has 1 game, and that's just due to a technicality of owning Quest, who made Ogre Battle 64. And the absence of Square Enix in particular is really felt on these apps. Really felt. The no Final Fantasies, no Dragon Quests, no Mana games, no Saga games, no Chrono Trigger, no Ogre Battle, none of the Quintet games like ActRaiser or Soul Blazer, Illusion of Gaia, Terranigma. All of that is very keenly felt, especially on the Super Nintendo. These services are just not what players want. It's not what I want. I have to renew in January. I'm just waiting for that reason to upgrade to the expansion pack. I haven't really had it yet. Paper Mario is not enough. I have that on my Wii. I don't feel the interest to pony up another $30 a year to have N64 games and Genesis games, because I have the majority of those Genesis games. Musha's the only one I don't have in some other form, I'm pretty sure. And on the N64 front, it's like I have some of them in their original format. I have some of them on other consoles. What's making me want to play them? The online? Well, the online's a bit dodgy when it comes to Nintendo. And we're paying $30 more for this privilege. So it's just not where I want this to be. I think that's ultimately it. I've done this before, but I feel like just seeing this one game announcement after multiple months of nothing on the NES, Super Nintendo front, and they just drop, oh, here's Paper Mario for you expansion pack owners. I hope that you enjoy. Nothing on the Genesis front to make that more enticing. I mean, I'm excited to try Musha when I upgrade, but I don't think most people even know what Musha is. You know what I mean? So it's just, Nintendo needs to do better. They need to actually commit to doing more, provide more content, or at least a schedule. It's like, games are going to come out every other month. These are the games that we are planning to launch for these 4 services, and maybe around October, expect a new console. We won't tell you what it is yet, but just expect it. That would be exciting. It would be exciting to know what to look forward to. Even if they were like, we're going to have 1 NES game, 2 Super Nintendo games, 2 Genesis games, and 1 N64 game for these 2 months. It's going to be spread out over those 2 months, so we'll have the regular stuff and then the expansion pack in this month. Just having an idea of what to expect would be really nice, instead of just random in the middle of the evening drops of, oh yeah, Paper Mario's coming. That's exciting. Look forward to it next week. You know what I mean? It's I wish for this to be more than it is. And that's not even getting into, like, where's the Game Boy games and the Game Boy Advance games? And, you know, TurboGrafx seems to be an interesting thing that they could do, because they've done it on the other 2 prior digital storefronts. Why not now? Anyway, that's my thoughts. That's just what stirred within me when I saw that announcement go out Thursday night. I was just like, I need to talk about this. I need to I want to understand. I just don't understand what Nintendo's doing. I really don't. And I don't think anyone outside of people who work there do. And I'm not even sure if they understand what's going on. Thank you for joining me as I rant about Nintendo and reminisce about Levels Plus Weekly. Next week, I think we'll talk about the Game Awards and the aftermath of whatever that brings. We will be doing a live reaction to that. I'll be recording it as soon as I get home on Thursday and talking about it as it goes, but I'll do kind of an overview of my thoughts on the show and the announcements and all that. And then I have a very special box of really cool stuff that my friend JD has put in the mail that I am so stoked to open. And I think that will be a nice episode right there. So look forward to that. We will see you in a week's time. So thank you so much, friends. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. Take care.